Hi, I'm Jill Collins, and today we're uncovering a simple yet powerful technique that promises to bring clarity and peace to your life. It's all about identifying and eliminating subconscious blocks that may be keeping you from living your best life. Joining us is the incredible Dr. Teshna, a pioneer in this field who has transformed countless lives with her innovative approach. We'll explore how this technique works, its benefits, and most importantly, how you can start using it to make real positive changes in your life. Whether you're struggling with self-doubt, emotional baggage, or simply want to improve your overall well-being, this conversation is for you. So let's get started and uncover the hidden power within you.
Your life is a perfect reflection of your belief system. It's either physical trauma, emotional trauma, chemical trauma, or something that's really stressing you out. It's like in our soul, in our subconscious level. It doesn't have to be like a big existential crisis. It can be just the little things in life that are driving you nuts that you're not able to clear because you have this belief in there.
Let's talk about muscle testing, because this is the intro to what you do. And I know you offer Sunday mornings, every Sunday morning you offer a free course or a free call that you have for people, anyone who wants to jump in, and we'll jump into everything you offer in a few minutes. But let's start with muscle testing, because what is this exactly? Some people have heard of it, some people haven't. So let's just get to the basics and start with that.
Okay. So basically, muscle testing was discovered in 1976 by a doctor of chiropractic, George Goodhart. And he found it by chance. And he discovered that when he was muscle testing something and somebody was touching a part of their body, they were strong. And when they didn't touch, they were weak, or vice versa. And that really got him intrigued. And so that's how he discovered the idea that when you test a muscle, you can get a response from it. And so, of course, he was a chiropractor, so he used it not in an emotional way, he used it in a physical way. So he could find out that, for example, a meridian point, if you touch a gallbladder, for example, meridian point, and you tested a previously strong muscle, if it goes weak, that indicated there was something going on with the gallbladder, and so forth. And so that's how he discovered it. And then he started teaching this to other chiropractors. And that's when I started learning this in 1983. So I've been doing muscle testing since 1983, and it was only like 7 years old back then, and nobody knew anything about it. It was like voodoo, right? So then I started using it right then and there, and I was in chiropractic college at the time, and it's a very powerful technique. Now, in the groups of people who were taking the classes from Dr. Goodhart, there was Roger Callahan, who was a psychotherapist, a psychologist. And so he figured out how to use those meridian points to help with emotional stress. So he's the father of tapping. And I happened to be there in 1984 when he first presented the idea of tapping on meridian points to release the emotions from the meridian. And I happened to be there. So I've been started to tap since 1984.
Okay, since 1984, so you were tapping, and so to show us a little bit about what that means, because a lot of that is.
For example, like right here, there's a meridian point that's stomach one, right? So you tap on this spot, right, like this, right? You curve your fingers a little bit more, and a little higher up, like as high up on the bone as you can, a little higher up, a little higher.
Oh, I see the bone, yeah, top of the bone.
Right there on the bone, and you tap like that. So that's called tapping a meridian point, okay? Now, these points here happen to relate with the stomach meridian. And the stomach meridian relates with things like worry and over-concern and feeling lack of control and nervous and stifled and obsessed and low self-esteem and distrust and disgust. There's all these different emotions that relate to this meridian. One of the things that Dr. Callahan had done back then, there was a woman who was really scared of water. And just by tapping these points, so anybody that's listening to this, if you're feeling nervous or you're feeling fear, you could start tapping these points and you'll feel more calm just by doing that, okay? But for him, what he did is this woman was so afraid of water, she wouldn't even take a bath or take a shower. She had to do like a sponge bath, like with a washcloth. So anyway, using just tapping on these points, right? He got her to first go close to a pool, right? And then how does she feel? And she felt better. So she says, can you go closer? She says, I think so. So she was like maybe a foot away from the water, and he had to do it again until she felt better. And then she ended up sitting on the edge of the pool with her feet in the water. That was like the first time in like her lifetime that she was okay doing that. And he did it again. And then he got her in the pool and did that. And so forth until she was able to put her head under the water. That was like the story that got all of us excited about this and started. And this was way in the early 80s. And then, of course, he developed like way more things, and he developed his own technique that's called TFT. But that's only available for practitioners. So you can't just like off the cuff go and take this seminar, right? So then after that, I was at another international conference in 1987 where Dr. Scott Walker, who is also a chiropractor and the father of Neuro technique, which is a fantastic technique. And I loved it so much, I started incorporating his principles because I happened to be there the very first time he was presenting his ideas about neuroemotional technique. And I started using his principles right then and there. And then I ended up taking all his seminars when he started teaching it, because it took a few years between that presentation and him starting to teach seminars. And I became certified in that and used it with great advantage for myself and my patients and everything. And I also wanted to be able to teach my patients how to do a simplified version of these things so they could help themselves. Over 3 decades ago, I started teaching a form of tapping that was very efficient, and it still is. And that's the part of Meridian tapping that I'm using. And then the Meridian Therapy side is more like the neuroemotional.
I hope you're enjoying today's episode. And if you are, consider subscribing. 93% of you that listen to this podcast regularly have not yet subscribed. If you like this channel, can you do me a quick favor and hit the subscribe button? It helps this channel more than you know. And the bigger the channel gets, the bigger the guests get. Thank you. Okay. So as far as tapping or the muscle testing, that's something anyone can do, right? You can do it to yourself, or do you need someone else to help you?
No, you can do it to yourself. And that's my fact that in my trainings, I teach people how to self-muscle test. And it's a very powerful tool because when you muscle test yourself, you can tell if you're congruent or not with a statement. And so
okay, so before you go into how to do that, I just thought of something. Why would someone muscle test, and what is it that they're testing for, and what can they experience? What is it that why would they muscle test? What is it? I'm having a feeling I don't feel great about myself, or my body doesn't feel healthy. Why would I do this?
Okay, so you would do this if you actually had a way to clear whatever you're finding, and you would have to even know that you can even do this. So that's why I'm saying I'm teaching this in my trainings so that people know how to do this. So you would use muscle testing in the way that I use it to find out if what you're saying is congruent or not with your body. So I'll give you an example. If, for example, I tested myself with a muscle, let's say my arm, okay, and I'm pushing down like this. And when I test it in the clear, it's strong, okay? I can't push it down. And then I'm gonna say something like, I am a woman, okay? And I'm gonna test it again, I am a woman. And I'm still strong, nothing changed. And then I'm gonna say, I am a man, okay? And I'm gonna test that, I am a man. And all of a sudden, my muscle becomes inhibited and I cannot hold it up. Okay, wow. When you say something you're incongruent with, your body temporarily inhibits the muscles so that you cannot hold them. And they actually have done like experiments with using a machine to do that so that it wouldn't be affected by a person, like you're pressing harder or something like that. So they had a machine and they would put a certain amount of pressure on the arm to see how much pressure the arm could take. And let's say it was 20 pounds of pressure. So then they would have the person say something they were congruent with. Like I just said, I am a woman. And the machine would start to put the pressure on, and we were able to hold the exact same amount of pressure. And then they would have them say something they were incongruent with. Like for me, I am a man. And then the machine would start putting pressure and they couldn't hold it. They just could not hold the same amount of pressure. Because literally what happens is the muscle becomes inhibited.
Okay, so I'm hearing you say the word congruent a lot. And what I'm wondering is, where is the congruency coming from? Is it from our soul? If I'm saying, okay, I should date this guy, or this guy's a good guy, I'm just making up something. They always say our soul knows versus we start to think about it and we analyze, the ego gets in the way versus our inner being. Is that something we can use for muscle testing? Or where is it congruent? Is it something, a belief in the brain? Or is it something that's inherent in us, in our soul, deep within our soul?
It's like in our soul, in our subconscious level.
That's it. That's
right?
what I was wondering.
So basically, when you say something like, for example, if I say I'm okay with money, right? And I test myself, I'm strong on that. But somebody else might test themselves on that and they'll be weak on that. So that means they have some limiting beliefs in there. They have a block about money. So because they go weak on I'm okay with money, that means their subconscious is not okay with money. The program is saying, I'm not okay with money. So guess what? They're going to do whatever it takes to get rid of it. They'll give it away, they'll spend it, they'll lose it, they'll do whatever they have to do so they don't have it anymore. So that's just an example. Like another example, I was doing like a sampler at the Kripalu Yoga Center like years ago in Massachusetts. There's like a yoga center there, and I was going to teach a training there. So a few weeks before the training, they invited me to do a sampler to a group of people who were there attending a Bruce Lipton seminar. And you know how Bruce talks about limiting beliefs being the thing, right? Like it's like all in our subconscious, but they don't really have a really good way to clear it. So I have that good way of clearing it. So I figured it out over the years, how to clear a limiting beliefs very quickly, in minutes, literally. It takes a minute or less to clear a limiting belief. You don't have to like repeat an affirmation for a month or 2 months or a year and hope that maybe it's going to clear, because we have way too many limiting beliefs. It would take lifetimes to try to clear them all that way. So I figured out a quicker way to do it. So anyway, I was doing this sampler and I asked, is there anybody here in the room that's been wanting to do something, but they just haven't been able to get themselves to do it? So I have a bunch of people raising their hand. There's like maybe 120 people in there. And so one guy in particular, I picked him and said, so what is it you've been wanting to do that you haven't been able to do? He says, I wanted to write a book for this longest time, and I just can't get myself to write that book. So I said, okay, so come over. So he comes over and I muscle test him first. He's strong in the clear. And then I said, okay, so let's have you say, I'm okay writing my book. And so I test him, and guess what happened? He went weak on that. So he wasn't congruent with writing this book. So I did the technique. We used the tapping version that because I do 2 different versions to clear beliefs or release blocks, so that type of thing. So I cleared the thing using the tapping sequence that I use. And then after I was done, I tested him again. I'm okay writing my book. So I test him, strong as a rock. So now that means that quickly, it only took 1 minute. I did the technique, and now all of a sudden his subconscious is congruent with being okay with writing the book that quickly. Now, 4 months later, he signs up for one of my trainings. He shows up and he's got this big smile on his face and he says, guess what? I said, what? I wrote my book. So here I just did one example in that sampler as a demo, and the guy writes his book.
No, it only does take 2 minutes. Okay. Or less than 2 minutes.
So it doesn't have to be hard. It doesn't have to be hard. That's what I want our listeners to realize, is that there are techniques out there like MTT that I'm teaching that can get these results much quicker. Now, sometimes the subjects can be more complex. Let's say I'm okay with money. It doesn't mean if you could just clear okay with money, that all of a sudden you're going to have all this money coming your way, because there's also something else that I teach that's called blueprints. So we have money blueprints, love blueprints, parenting blueprints, marriage blueprints, you name it. We have blueprints about everything. When you have a blueprint that has limiting beliefs, then you also have to address that. And I teach how to do that as well. So the first part is you check okay statements to make sure that you're okay with the general subject. So for example, I've had a lot of women come to me and they're like, they've been single for 10 years and they really want to be in a relationship. So the first thing I do is I test them with, I'm okay with men. And guess what happens? they go weak on that. They go weak on that. So if you're not okay with men on a subconscious level, the likelihood of you being able to be in a relationship is much, much less.
And you
Because
can
you're
solve
not okay with
you
them.
can solve this. Yeah, you can solve this with the tapping then in very short order. So it's the express version of going through years of therapy to try to talk through it and figure out why. First you realize, okay, you might eventually get to, okay, I'm not okay with men. And then it's now what are you going to do about it? And you got to talk about your whole history and go through the whole process. And it's like, all right, this happened to me once and I went through this trauma. And yeah, because I just finished a 10-day silent meditation retreat called Vipassana. And that's totally tapping into the subconscious. And that was really tough. But I will say is like just really going in, and that's just feeling sensations in your body. And I can see where this is very similar. There's a lot of similarities here because you're looking for feelings and sensations. And I noticed in the sensations that I would have that a thought would suddenly just randomly pop in my head. And I realized that thought was tied to the sensation of whatever pain or feeling I was feeling in my body somewhere. And as soon as I just focused on that sensation for a short period of time, I wasn't tapping, but so this is another technique I see is that it would dissipate or would go somewhere else or it would lessen. And then the thought, I'd have that thought again about something I was afraid of or had anxiety about. And I didn't feel anxiety or fear or whatever it was anymore. It was just a thought. It was gone. And so this to me seems like a much better way than sitting in 10-day silent meditation retreat, but it is what it is. But that's amazing
way to get there.
Okay. I'm in.
Absolutely. No, it's really great. And the thing is, so like I said, like let's say something with money, for example, or let's go back to the man idea. Okay. So I test the woman and I say, I'm okay with men. And she goes weak on that. So then I do the techniques so that now when I test her, I'm okay with men, she's strong on that. And you can feel the difference. Like when you say the first time, I'm okay with men and the subconscious is not, you can feel like a in the body. No, I'm not. And you might even have memories of men being abusive or leaving you or hurting you or cheating on you or whatever. And so that part of you is like trying to protect you. So it's not okay with men. Do you see? So once I clear that, and now they are okay with men, they can already feel the difference in their bodies, right? Then I go further. I test them with, I'm okay being in a relationship with a man. And test that, right? A lot of them will go weak again. So there's a lot of different like things that you can check on that. So once you have the muscle testing and you know the body doesn't lie, it's like sky's the limit. You can test anything to see if you're congruent with it or not. Okay. But it's all it's telling you. Are you congruent with it or not? So if you don't say the right sentence, that's actually testing to see if you're having a limiting belief or if you're having a block or something, then all it's telling you is that your body's congruent with what you just said. It doesn't mean it's the right thing to do or the wrong thing to do. Do you see what I mean? It's not oracle. So there's different ways of using muscle testing.
Okay, it's an oracle. I love that. So it's a guide. But my question for you here is, I'm wondering if there are people where muscle testing doesn't work on.
That's a very good question. The people who cannot muscle test themselves, usually it's because they're switched, which brings me to another thing that I teach in my training. Switching is a neurological disorganization that prevents the brain from being able to tell through the body whether you're congruent or not to something. And those are the same people that will be confused between right and left, and front and back, and top and bottom. And so like in my practice, for example, a patient would come in and I'd say, okay, lay down on your back, and they'd go on their stomach. Or I'd say, lay down on your stomach, and they'd go on their back. Or I would say, go to the right, and they'd go to the left. All right. So that's neurological disorganization. And when
why does somebody have neurological disassociation, or why are they switched? What is it? Trauma?
Yes.
Disorganization. There was trauma?
Yes, it's either physical trauma, emotional trauma, chemical trauma, or something that's really stressing you out. Okay, so for example, even in the animal kingdom, switching occurs. Okay, so but I will explain to you like the physical aspect in the animal kingdom. So let's say a deer gets hurt on their right leg, front leg. And so now, if nothing happened other than that, they would be looking lame. right? They'd be walking and they look lame. And if they look lame, they'll be prey and they'll be dead. The body is smart. So what it does, it will take the energy from the left side and bring it to the right side. So it switches the energy to the other side. So it gives extra energy so it doesn't look lame. And it will stay like that until it heals. And then the energy will go back to the other side and you'll be balanced again.
So you have a false sense of strength on one side because you're perhaps because you're the switching situation with the great example you gave. So someone could be strong no matter what you say because they're switched.
Exactly. So people who have tried muscle testing on themselves and it doesn't work for me, right? Because I'm strong on everything. It's because they're more than likely it's because they're switched. And so in my trainings, I teach you how to figure out if you're switched and how to unswitch yourself and how to even bypass switching because some people, like 95% of the people will clear with the switching correction that I give them to do, but 5% will not. They're so switched. And those are like people like oftentimes they have cancer, for example. So like their body is like really going against itself, right? So like, it's like they're switched on a very deep level. So sometimes that correction will not work. So there's a bypass mechanism that I teach people. So then when you do that, you bypass the mechanism so you can start testing yourself. And also muscle testing is an art. So you have to practice and you get better as you do it. So in my trainings, most people are able to get it. And a few people, it takes them a little longer than the 3 days to really feel comfortable with it. But most people can do it. So it can be learned.
Okay. So once you get to the point where you're muscle testing and then tapping to relieve the problem, the situation, what is next then? Does the tapping have to go on for life? Does this woman have to tap herself every time she gets into the water?
No, that's the beauty of it. Once it's cleared, it's just like you went in your computer and you have a document and you want to change it, right? So you find the document, you open it up, you put your cursor, you start adding things or deleting things or whatever, you correct it the way you want, and then you save it and that's it, right? You don't have to go back every day and redo that same correction, right? It's just the exact same day. It's the same idea in the body, in the brain. So with this technique, you can literally treat your brain as if it was your computer. And you can go in there and update any limiting beliefs you have or any blocks you have. Also, phobias, addictions, PTSD. You can do all of that. Stress. You can also learn how to forgive on all levels. And that's something that I do in my Sunday calls. I'm alternating right now. One Sunday we do forgiveness, and the next Sunday we do a stress relief session. So that anybody that's listening to now, right, to this interview, you can join us for free on every Sunday. Right now, I do them at 2 p.m. EDT, and then you get to experience it yourself. So don't take my word for it. Yeah. Just come on the call and feel it, and then you'll know what I'm talking about.
That's wonderful. I'll put that in the show notes. You'll see it in the bottom of this, everyone watching here. And so I have a question about that because you were talking about it helps with emotional and mental blocks and limiting beliefs, addictions, which I'm so thrilled about. That's awesome. But can it also assist with physical health issues?
That's a very good question. Like you definitely can, but it's a little different way that you would do it. But for example, one of my students, she has 4 kids, and one of her son came in one day and he was having this fever and he had no appetite and he was feeling awful and everything. And she figured out that he was stressed about something. So she used MTT, the technique, on him to release the stress. Because I have a stress reduction protocol. So she used that, got the stress down to 0. The fever was gone. His appetite came back like immediately. Because a lot of the physical, emotional connections there cause us to have pain or a fever or whatever, sore throat. And a lot of times by clearing the emotion that's related to it or clearing the stress around it, you can actually help the physical issue.
Yes, I because there's so much evidence I've personally witnessed and seen, as though like even Dr. Joe Dispenza, when we do meditation, we go in and we find blocks. Is that so much of, and even Vipassana is how we bury thoughts, memories, feelings, traumas in our body, and it physically can manifest. And so I could see that totally, is that when we see where the emotional or mental blocks are, and we're able to release those, then we actually at times they're tied to physical health issues. And I could see where that would definitely make an impact. That's amazing. So let me ask you, because a lot of women who watch my channel, they're in midlife. And so are there special key benefits to muscle testing for midlife women specifically?
Yeah, that's a really good point, because whatever you haven't manifested yet by midlife, when are you going to do it? So it's like the perfect time to just, now you've already lived, you have experience, and now you know more what you want. And the way I teach is there's 4 main areas that we need to work on. One is money. You need to have enough money to live in this world and not be stressed out all the time. You need love, right? If you're just constantly alone, that's not a good thing for most people. Most people want to have somebody to love and be loved, right? The third one is health. You need your health. And the fourth one is what I call the perfect expression of self. So like your work, your career, like what is it that turns you on, that you want to do every day, that you're contributing to the world? So those 4 things are really important. And so what I do with my students, and I ask them, okay, so what area of those 4 is lacking the most? And whatever area that is, then you work on that first. So you start to clear all the blueprint about money, like money is evil, and if I have money, I spend it all, or being unable to have a savings account, or I always have to be in debt, whatever. Or it's like there's so many different beliefs that can be there. So you start to clear all of this. And what I teach my student is that whatever in your life is a perfect reflection of your belief system. I'll say that again. Whatever is going on in your life is a perfect reflection of your belief system. So,
I believe you.
So if your money is not where you want it, that means you have limiting beliefs about it. If your relationship is not the way you really want it, it means you have some limiting beliefs about that, and so forth.
I love this because you're talking about how we've learned in Tony Robbins and everything is a lot of things. And this is all great work, but it's these great things about like doing affirmations and having things that we say to ourselves. It's, to me, I always felt like it's almost like overriding or trying to override the program. It's like you're pushing it down in order to like make this like exterior kind of shell or surface of this. And it just doesn't feel like it ever resolved the internal. And I'm amazing. And then you can hear this voice going, no, you're not. And it's just that fight, the internal fight. And so I love this way you're talking about this, because, and another question I had is when you talk about the blueprints, which I love that word, blueprint being just an idea of how we see things, like our map of what our beliefs are about a particular area, whether it be money, love, health, or our work, is when someone says, oh, it's going to be money. And do you test all 4 of these? And I bet you, are there some that are surprised it's not what they think is their strongest that they want to work on? Which one, or when they think it's the weakest? Is it, did they often find it something else?
Sometimes, absolutely. And actually, when you muscle test yourself to find out about different beliefs, you're regularly surprised. Oh my God, I didn't know I was believing this. So then you just use the technique and clear it immediately. And then it's gone. I've never had to clear the same belief twice. In 30 years that I've been doing this work, never had to clear the same belief twice.
So it's one and done. It's it.
One and done. You clear that belief, it's gone. You go to the next one and the next one, because we have so many of them. And how do we get these blueprints? We get this from conception until 10 years old. That's where all our blueprints are being created. It's because you know how Joe Dispenza talks about that the theta waves and the delta waves and all this. And then when we're a child, basically, we're like in like hypnosis state practically, right? So everything that goes on around us goes right into our subconscious, and that becomes part of our blueprint. So whatever we saw our parents do to each other and to us became what we believe love is. Whatever their attitude about money was, that becomes what our attitude is about money. And unless you have a tool like this to specifically go in there and test to see if it's there, whatever you're suspecting, and if it is, you don't like it, you change it immediately. And then I also teach you how to put in the belief you want to have. So I teach you how to remove the ones you don't want and how to put in the ones you do want.
How do you find the beliefs that they do want?
For example, what is it you want in your life?
Well, I don't know. I just want happiness and peace for people. I want happiness and peace for myself. Yeah. So that's where you start, and then you find out whether or not you have it. And so you've already got the answer. You're going to what you wanted and then what you tested for initially.
Exactly. And if you're congruent with it or not. If you're not congruent with it, then you need to work on it.
That's amazing. So I will, again, I'll put this in the show notes, but tell us a little bit about, so you have the free Sunday calls, which are amazing. And then you offer that, and that's where people can learn about muscle testing and tapping for themselves.
No, they don't learn about muscle testing in that. That one is to give you an experience of how it works. And so that you actually feel the difference. So if you came in really stressed out, and it's a stress relief session, at the end of the session, you will not be stressed about whatever that was. It will be gone. And the same thing, if you come to a forgiveness session, then let's say you want to really forgive somebody that you haven't been able to forgive them in years. And every time you think about them, you get this in that, and you will yourself to forgive them, but you can't do it because it's in the body. When somebody really hurts us, it gets imprinted in the cellular memory, in the nervous system, in the meridian system. And this technique helps you to release it from that. So you literally feel the difference in your body as well as in your mind. So at the end of the session, you'll be able to forgive that person and you won't even have any stress about it anymore. It's gone. Okay. So
amazing.
yes, so that's on the Sundays, okay? Then if people enjoyed that and they want to learn more about it, I also offer a 1-day MTT immersion for free also, unless you want to be a VIP, and then it's $97 and you get the recording and the workbook and an extra hour of VIP as a group to clear more things. And you also get the PDF of my book that I wrote. It's called Fit for Love. It's a great book. So if anybody is looking to improve their relationship or get into a relationship or leave a bad one or whatever, you can read this book. It will give you a lot of information. And then hopefully we see you at the training so you can learn how to do this on yourself. Anyway, so you can do the 1-day MTT immersion. And in that training, you do learn, I teach you how to muscle test yourself. So now you have the tool to be able to get into your subconscious and figure out what you're congruent with and what you're not congruent with. And I teach you how to clear the okay statements, which is like the beginning of it all, right? You need to get rid of the block first about whatever subject it is you want to do. And sometimes that's enough to create a big change. Like I had somebody on my 1-day MTT just last Saturday, and on Sunday, he came to the forgiveness call, and he says, you won't believe this. He says, I was having this block about money. And after the call, my son called me and he said, Dad, can I have your bank account number? I want to pay you back what I borrowed from you. And he ended up paying back all of the debts that he had, which was quite a bit of money. So all of a sudden, after he cleared his block about money, his son sent him all this money, right? So it's amazing how that happens. Once you start to clear these things, you don't have that block anymore. So your frequency is different. That's what it's about. It's like you clear the belief and all of a sudden your frequency is different. So now you're attracting a different thing. It's all about frequency and vibrations. Because when you, for example, if you go weak on I'm okay with men, that means your vibration is repelling men. Yeah. Can you see that?
I totally can see that.
If your subconscious says I'm okay with men, then you don't have that vibration of repelling. It's the opposite. It's more of an attraction because you're okay with men. You don't have that, stay away from me kind of thing. You're going to hurt me. You're going to cheat on me. You're going to whatever. You're going to abuse me, whatever that is.
We need to go to the next layer then is I'm okay with men, and it's getting more specific of what types of men then next, right?
Yes, you can do that. Absolutely. And then, of course, once you clear the okay statements, then what I teach is how to get into the blueprint. How to find out specific beliefs. For example, I had a belief that love means being criticized because my mother was really critical. So I was being criticized growing up, and I thought that's what love is. So I found my first husband, he was critical. So I loved him, right? Because it's a marriage made in heaven. My blueprint was saying love means being criticized, and he was critical. So I felt love, right? On a subconscious level. Now, on a conscious level, I didn't like it. But I wouldn't leave because, you know what I mean? It matched.
It felt like home. It felt like home, probably, like comfort,
Exactly,
right?
exactly. And that's why, like, women who grew up in really abusive households, like where the father is, let's say, an alcoholic or a drug addict and violent physically or whatever, they're very likely to end up with a man like that because that's what they believe love is. So they are attracted to a man that's going to be very similar to their father. And then if they leave that man, finally, they might end up with another man that's the exact same way. Even though at first they thought they were different, but then they end up being the same. Because whatever your subconscious is programmed for is what you attract.
Yeah, I see that. I totally get it. I think it's just, and I think we all intuitively know this, or we're dealing with these addictions or these feelings or these areas where we often in relationships, for example, people say my picker's off, or people tell me my picker's off. I just pick bad men, and I attract bad men. There's another friend I have who it seems like I've been here in Buenos Aires for 14 years, and knock on wood, I've never had any robberies or been stolen or had anybody ever take anything. But this person, it's like there's a rash of them. Like in about a month, it was like 3 things happened to her and everything's stolen. And I'm just like, what? And it's what happened in the house, on the street, in the cafe. And it was just something funny. And I was working with her a little bit, and she was saying things like, in business, it's like everyone keeps taking my ideas. I pitch someone an idea and they always take my ideas from me. And so there's this mindset that I said, that do you realize that when I pitch an idea, that doesn't happen to me? But this person has this idea that someone's always going to take. And that I'm just thinking out loud as I'm thinking this, but is there this like limiting belief about people take things?
Absolutely.
And that could actually, could clear things like what was happening to her, as well as the business dealings.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. We literally attract whatever our vibration is.
Damn. That's good. Yeah. This is good stuff, yeah. Dr. Teshna, good stuff. I love it.
And as a matter of fact, in my training, I also teach how to manifest what you want. And I did that myself first. So that's why, like, I have my husband, we've been together for 21 years. And then now we live in Ecuador, which was my dream, to live in Ecuador. And we manifest our dream home. And I'm retired officially. I don't do like my practice anymore in the US like I was doing. And now actually my son is working at my practice, which I'm really excited about. But I'm here in Ecuador, and now it's like in my retired mode, so to speak. What I want to do is teach this method to as many people as I can, because it's so powerful and it helped me so much. And so many of my clients and patients and everybody around me, that have taken this technique. And as a matter of fact, I have one of my members. She's in the membership, because I have a membership also that I do, where people can take all my trainings, and we have a weekly call, and I lead them through sessions and all that. Anyway, she started like maybe a year and a half ago, and she's 70, and she had I think 3 different marriages that failed, and she was done with men. Like, she was like, I'm not even looking for a relationship. I'm 70 anyway. I'm done with that, blah, blah, blah. But in the training, of course, I teach people how to manifest all these different things. And so she did the exercise just to humor me, just because I said, okay, just do the exercise, just see what happens. So she does the exercise, and lo and behold, like a month or 2 later, she meets the man of her dreams. And they've been together since. And then she also had issues with her health. And since she's done MTT, her health is amazing. She looks 10 years younger right now. And then another thing was money. Like, she was having issues with accepting money and all this stuff. And that one took a little longer for her. But just like maybe 3 months ago or something, she had a breakthrough, and all of a sudden money's coming to her. So it's like she just kept clearing things. I kept saying, okay, there's still something in there. If it's not coming in your life, that means there's still a block in there. So she just keep working on it, and finally it just happened. So it's like in perfect manifestation of her self expression right now. She's so excited because she's now doing this with all her clients. She's doing MTT with her clients and blowing their mind and changing their lives. And she's so excited, she can't stand it. So that's just one example.
This is amazing. I love hearing these stories because I think that gives us ideas and inspires the viewers to see what's possible. And it's again, recapping this before we wrap up is just how quick this can be and how easy it is. And it's meditation. All these things are really great. And this is another vehicle, another way to really get through some of these limiting beliefs, these blockages, the why we're not where we want to be, why we keep having the same things happen to us, or that we feel like life's happening to us. And yeah, you're solving that. You're showing people the way. And I love this so much. This is so good. Thank you.
Yes. And as a matter of fact, talking about meditation, I love meditation. I love Dr. Joe's meditation specifically. Yeah. I do them all the time myself. And I also have some of my members who are also Dr. Joe students, and they told me that they were having some issues sometimes to get into the meditation. So they go in there and they feel like the black was scary or whatever. And so they cleared that. And now they're able to get into this meditation like never before. Do you see? So whatever is in your way. I have another person, he was so always like hyper, he couldn't sit down to meditate. So using MTT, he got himself so much calmer that now he can actually sit and meditate. Do you see? So it's like a perfect marriage. I don't see it as an either or. I see it works perfect together.
For sure. Because I've heard a lot of people who always say too about procrastinating. I have clients that I work with that with the meditation and practice, it's the actual commitment to meditate every day. I don't have time, or I will. And then I wake up and I feel like I have to do so many things that I just can't sit still. And it's it's procrastination and not just meditation, but there can be so many things we procrastinate about. I'm sure there's limiting beliefs behind that could be solved.
Absolutely. Yes. And just getting rid of the stress level, just the behind the scenes stress level that most people are in.
I noticed is that when I did Vipassana, you talk about stress levels, is that we actually look, I don't know about you, but for me, I was looking for problems. Like it's trying to find things to solve. And it's to entertain the mind, and sitting still and having absolutely no distractions, nothing I could write. I know paper and a pen, nothing. And in the off time, I'm just looking for something to do. And it was like creating something, like trying to create something to fix or to solve. And so I think maybe a lot of times if we have peace and we don't have stress, there's a resistance to no stress, perhaps. Do you think?
It can be. You just would test yourself with that. I'm okay being stress-free. And see if you go strong or weak on that. See, that's the thing. Once you have the muscle testing and you can trust your own muscle testing, and you're not switched, and you know how to say the statements correctly, you can test anything. And then if you're not okay with it, then you clear it. And now you're okay with it, and it changes the whole picture. It's amazing. Like I have it's just mind-blowing. Like one of my students, the woman with the 4 kids, she said she used to, like, every time she tried to cook something, she'd either burn it or she'd put too much of something or not enough or whatever. So like, it was never a success. So she finally cleared the beliefs around that. And now she hasn't burned a thing since, and her food comes out great and everything. So sometimes it's like simple things like that makes all the difference in your life, right? So it doesn't have to be like a big existential crisis. It can be just the little things in life that are driving you nuts that you're not able to clear because you have this belief in there.
That's brilliant. I love this work so much. Everyone, I'm going to put all of this in the show notes. You will have access to Dr. Teshna and all of her programs, her Sunday calls and links. And so definitely mention when you sign up that you heard her here. That would be amazing. And also definitely, I would love for you to like, share, and subscribe. Share this with others. This is so impactful, and I want you to do that, please. And we just hit 1,000 followers, so we're really excited about that, our subscribers. So help us with the channel and help it grow so we can get even more amazing guests like Dr. Teshna. So I appreciate you for that. And Dr. Teshna, thank you so much for being here today. It's been amazing. And any last final words before we wrap up?
Just thank you for having me on the show. And I hope to see some of your people that listen to this interview so that we can teach them how to do this for themselves. That's my goal.
Good. I can't wait. I can't wait to jump in. So yeah, and hear more about it. Thank you so much, Dr. Teshna. Thank you, everyone. And have an amazing rest of your day, evening, wherever you are in the world. Take care. Stay connected.